them and forgot all about the bill. Who should enter but the man from Harlem? Well, look at that cat. It's coming in, he's growling. Listen at him growling. Getting off a mess, ain't it? Oh, you mugging, Satchel, you mugging. Mugging, so help me. I'm going to tell you more about it, Everybody rolled their eyes. Women started heaving sighs. Someone hollered, music, lights, and gin. Come on, let's get out here. Everybody cleared his space. They had big, broad smiles on every face. How they all loved to see the man from Harlem. Oh, when he started into step, he filled everyone with plenty pep. He'd twist and squirm, it just was a dirty shame. Everyone was in a daze. Women watched him with amaze. Each one said she'd have the man from Harlem. Can you blame him? Can you blame him? Oh, this man's a man. This man him mug. Lay ragging. Ah, you're mugging. Yes, indeed, Rick. Looked over in the corner. There was a couple frails, and they sure did look kind of low. Another cat walked up and said to the man in Harlem, go over there and see what's the matter with them girls there. And he said, I'm kind of low. He said, I got just what you need. Come on, sister, light up one of these weeds and get high and forget about everything. Come on, Satchel. Oh, baby.
Like the sound of these words of power or vibration.
Yes, in fact, the idea of vibration as being a major facet to not only the ancient Kabbalists' view, but also the shamanic view, was something I discovered and then discovered again. My teacher, Carlos Suarez, in Paris, when I was living in Paris, had taught me about this, and that was back in 1974, and then it rekindled in 1989 after spending time with the Peruvian shamans. I remember the first time I met Jorge Gonzalez Ramirez, who is a Peruvian shaman, and I asked him simple questions like, well, how do you heal somebody? And then I said, well, before you answer that question, I said, how do you know when someone's sick? And he says, oh, I can tell by their vibration. I said, oh, their vibration. Well, how do you do that? And so then he reaches over, and just like I'm reaching over, he grabs my wrist and he starts holding my wrist like this. And then I said, oh, I'm thinking, this guy is maybe primitive. You mean pulse? That's what you mean. You mean pulse. And then he says, that too. And then I realized that when he's speaking about vibrations or bodily vibrations, he's not just speaking about the pulse, but he's speaking about a number of different vibrational energies that are present in the body. Well, after I talked with him and then had an experience with him in which I directly felt his vibration in a shamanic trance state that I entered with him, I then had talked, even before and afterwards, I talked with a number of other shamans in different parts of the world. Anglo-Saxon shamans, Druids. I talked with shamans from different Indian tribes, the Chumash Indians down in Ventura, California, also the Oglala Sioux in South Dakota, and they all keyed me into the idea that vibration was extremely important in their worldview. So when I wrote the book, The Eagle's Quest, I decided that in order for me as a physicist to make sense out of all of this, I'm really going to have to approach it from as much of a scientific viewpoint as I can, so I made up a series of postulates or hypotheses. And the first hypothesis, the major one, is that the shamans see the universe as made of primal vibrational stuff. And that really tied into my understanding of quantum physics, because in quantum physics we talk about quantum waves, which are vibrations, out of which all matter is eventually is created or emerges. So there was a direct tie-in right there.
And these quantum waves, as I understand them, are non-physical in the sense that they are probability waves.
Exactly right. And it's very similar to the shamanic idea. Quantum physics is a very bizarre business. I mean, it's the business of business, and nothing could be further from our normal sense of reality than that business. It deals with things which are, in a sense, unobservable, out of which we feel all observable phenomena will arise or arises. And one of the basic assumptions of quantum physics is the quantum wave nature of all matter. That matter, unobserved, matter on its own, moves and vibrates in waves. But waves of what? Are they water waves? Are they sound waves? Are they electrical waves? No, they're actually waves of nothing. They're called probability waves. And probability is something that you do in your brain, in your mind. You think, and you determine what's probable and what's not probable. So we're dealing with something which is akin to almost mind stuff, if you will. This is not really too much of a surprise. Physicists already had a shock to their system delivered in 1905 when Einstein pointed out that there was no ether to support waves of light. So when a light wave is waving, what is it waving in? It's also waving in nothing. So light is a kind of halfway between material and energetic reality that we see in terms of substance and almost the mind of God, if you will.
You know, the relationship and our relationship system for our people here. See, my people see land ownership as being totally different to the English way of ownership, because ours used to be really the land owns us, and it still is that to us. You know, the land grows all of us up, and it really does. You know, no human is older than the land itself. It just isn't. And no living marsupial is as old as the land itself. Everything that's been in God with life in the flesh has died. But the land is still here.
It doesn't matter, but there is only one thing that is moving the ocean, and we are like one wave on this, in this enormous, infinite forms of waves. And we show up, and then we go back to the wholeness. We came from the wholeness, from the oneness, and we go back to the oneness. There's one very interesting poem in Zen philosophy, in Zen practice. Where have you been before Father and Mother met? And that's where we go back. We all have been there, but we don't know it. And we always divide the world into pieces, into little pieces. And we think that this camera, for instance, is isolated from the wholeness. It is isolated because it has no consciousness. But if you go into the deep consciousness, there is no separateness. It can't be.
Oh, shit. I'm gonna like that. I'm gonna like that, I'm gonna like that, like. Fucking Frank Edmonds flat. Right, this is the wire wall. You've got to burn this first to get the toxicity out of it.
Residue blacks, and we can clean it out. And what you clean out is better than what you smoked the first time round. No more pipe boys, get away.
Part of land which has been handed down to you by your ancestors, we say the granny law, has given me my responsibility now that I'm grown up to care for my country, care for my mother, care for everything that is around me, the oneness, the completeness of that oneness, to be responsible in both caring, in every single way, which we call the kanyini, caring with unconditional love, with the responsibility. You feel that so well, that you feel good when you're in that space, and you kind of feel you're living with family when you include everything that is alive in that space, and that it's a huge space, and there's a lot of specimens of everything you could possibly imagine there with you, and then you grow up knowing that these are all your family. You can never feel lonely in that situation. You just can't. How can you when all around you is family members, from this ground up to all the trees around you to the clouds hanging up around you, the birds flying by, the animals and reptiles that are just hidden in the shrub there for now. But can come out if they want to, hunt around for their little food. And then they can become food for us as well. It is a beautiful way of being. It doesn't push anyone out, but it brings everybody in. And the completeness of being who you are, where you are, is a really good feeling. It's a beautiful feeling. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. That's why I'm here, right beside Uluru. I am so lucky.
Well, but I've been out here since I was 12 years old.
In other words, Annie doesn't live there anymore.
That's right.
Are you single?
Yes.
I hope I'm correct in guessing